Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning in Auckland, making yourself a coffee, and knowing that while you were asleep, your money sent you a paycheck. No boss, no roster, no alarm clock. That is the dream a lot of Kiwis are quietly chasing right now. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how much you need invested to live off dividends in New Zealand forever. We'll cover the real numbers, the tax trick most people completely miss, and the boring portfolio that actually pays you for the rest of your life. Here's the part most Kiwis never get told. New Zealand is one of the best countries on the planet to live off dividends, and the reason is something almost unique to us. It's called imputation credits. When a New Zealand company makes a profit, it pays 28% company tax on it. When it then pays you a dividend out of that profit, it attaches a credit for the tax it has already paid, so you are not taxed twice on the same dollar. Australia has the same idea. They call it franking. And the two of us are among the only countries left in the world that still run a full imputation system like this. In the United States, the United Kingdom, and most of Europe, dividend investors get hit with double taxation. And there is a second advantage the Aussies don't even have. New Zealand has no general capital gains tax. When your shares grow in value and you sell them, you generally don't pay tax on that gain. Tax-friendly income and tax-free growth. That combination is rare and it is sitting right under your nose. Let's start with the number that actually matters. How much do you need each year to live comfortably in New Zealand? The gold standard here is Massey University's retirement expenditure guidelines, and the numbers are sobering. NZ Super, the universal pension every Kiwi gets at 65, pays a single person only around $29,000 a year after tax. That barely covers a no-frills life, especially if you are renting. For a couple wanting a comfortable lifestyle in a main city, running a car, eating out, taking the odd holiday, Massey puts the real cost at around $90,000 a year. A single person chasing that same comfortable life needs roughly $55,000 to $60,000. And if you want the genuinely good life, overseas trips, no budgeting, upgrading the car every few years, you are realistically looking at $100,000 a year or more. NZ Super alone will never get you there. The gap is what your investments have to fill. So what can a New Zealand dividend portfolio actually pay you? Dividend yields on the NZX run somewhere between 4 and 6%, depending on how you build it. And once you add imputation credits, the effective yield is higher again. Our market is unusually income-friendly because it is dominated by steady, cash-generating businesses, the power companies, the airport, the telcos, listed property. To keep us safe and realistic, let's use a conservative 5% as our working yield for a diversified Kiwi income portfolio. Now we can do the real maths. If you want $50,000 a year in dividend income, you divide that by 5%, and you need around $1 million invested. If you want $75,000 a year, you need about $1.5 million. If you want $100,000 a year, the genuinely comfortable do-what-you-want number, you need around $2 million. And if you want to live large on $150,000 a year, you're looking at roughly $3 million. Those numbers might sound enormous, but here is the part that should give you hope. They are not reserved for high earners or people who inherited money. The average Kiwi who starts early enough and stays consistent can absolutely get there. Let me show you how. And if this is already useful, do me a quick favor and hit the like button. It genuinely helps more Kiwis find this. Right, back to it. Now, tax. Unlike a lot of countries, New Zealand has no tax-free threshold. You're taxed from the very first dollar. But this is exactly where imputation credits become your best friend. If your personal tax rate is 28% or below, a fully imputed dividend has effectively already had its tax paid, so you owe nothing extra. And here is the bit almost nobody talks about. If your income is low enough that your tax rate sits below 28%, which is true for a lot of retirees living mostly off their portfolio, those imputation credits can actually come back to you as a refund.
The company overpaid the tax on your behalf and you get the difference. Combine that with no capital gains tax on the shares themselves, and a Kiwi dividend portfolio becomes one of the most tax-efficient income machines you can build.
Here's the path most people miss. You don't need to save $1 million out of thin air. You need to invest consistently and let compounding do the heavy lifting. If you invest $1,500 a month into a diversified New Zealand share portfolio earning around 7% a year, which is below what New Zealand growth funds have actually returned over the last decade, you'll cross $1 million in roughly 22 years. Push it to $2,000 a month and you're there in about 19 years. Start in your early 30s and you can be financially free well before the traditional retirement age. The money you put in today is the money working hardest because it has the most time to compound. The other lever most Kiwis ignore is which account holds these investments. KiwiSaver is brilliant for the long game. Your employer chips in, the government chips in, but you generally can't touch it until 65, so it can't pay you income before then. That is why a lot of people targeting dividend freedom run a dual track. KiwiSaver compounding away in the background for the long haul, and a second investment account outside KiwiSaver through a platform like Sharesies or InvestNow that produces dividends you can actually live on at any age. And if you invest through a PIE fund, your tax on that income is capped at 28%, even if your normal rate is 33 or 39. For higher earners, that cap alone is a meaningful boost to your after-tax return. Now, the single biggest mistake new dividend investors make is chasing the highest yield. If you see a stock paying 12% on the NZX, it is almost always a trap. Either the share price has collapsed because the business is in trouble, or the dividend is about to be cut. The companies that pay sustainable, growing dividends decade after decade are the boring ones. And here's a key difference from Australia. New Zealand has no big listed banks. Ours are all Australian-owned. Our dividend backbone is the power companies, like Meridian, Contact and Genesis, plus Spark, Auckland Airport, and our listed property names. They are not exciting, but they pay you, and they keep paying you, and forever is the goal here. There is also a smarter way to do this than picking individual stocks, especially when you are starting out. New Zealand dividend ETFs do the heavy lifting for you. The Smart NZD Dividend ETF, ticker DIV, holds the 25 highest-yielding companies on the NZX in a single trade. The Smart NZ Top 50, ticker FNZ, gives you the whole top of the market. One purchase, instant diversification across dozens of dividend payers. And because they are PIE funds, that tax cap works in your favor. For most Kiwis, a simple 1 or 2 ETF portfolio will quietly outperform the vast majority of stock pickers over 20 years, and you will sleep a lot better. It's worth knowing how these payments actually land. Most New Zealand companies pay dividends twice a year, an interim dividend around March to May and a final dividend around September to November. Some ETFs pay quarterly. A lot of income investors deliberately mix their holdings so the cash arrives more evenly across the year. Some even build a dividend calendar, lining things up so a payment shows up almost every month. It makes the switch from a salary to living off dividends feel a lot smoother when the day finally comes. Now the part nobody likes to hear: inflation. If you need $50,000 to live today, at around 3% inflation, you'll need closer to $67,000 in 10 years and about $90,000 in 20. The reason dividend investing still wins long-term is that quality New Zealand companies grow their dividends over time, usually faster than inflation. Our power companies and infrastructure names have real pricing power, so your income stream grows with the cost of living instead of falling behind it. That is how a dividend portfolio actually keeps you free, not just for a few years, but for the rest of your life. One last piece to hold on to: the dividend reinvestment plan. While you are still building, instead of taking the cash, you automatically reinvest every dividend back into more shares. Your shares pay dividends, those dividends buy more shares, and those new shares pay even more dividends.
By the time you flip the switch from building to living off the income, your portfolio is paying you dramatically more than if you had been spending those dividends along the way. That is the snowball, and it is the closest thing to magic in investing. So let's bring it all together. To live off dividends in New Zealand, you are realistically looking at somewhere between $1 million and $2 million invested, depending on the life you want.
You get there by investing consistently into quality New Zealand dividend stocks and ETFs, using imputation credits to wipe out most of your tax, paying no capital gains tax on the growth, avoiding the high yield traps, and giving compounding the time it needs to work. None of this requires a huge salary. It requires starting and staying in the game. If this video helped you, hit the like button. It helps more Kiwis find this channel. If you're not subscribed yet, now is the time. And turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you there.